TitleMatchNetwork.com.
For 2 weeks. So it's good going out because you get 2 weeks back pay, you know what I mean? You know, but going in, you know, you needed to have some money to get an apartment or wherever a place to live. And I had around $1,000, $1,200 in my car, you know, in my glove box, and he wasn't getting it. And I smashed him there, and I was scared, man. You know, I was a kid. I was 21 years old. I smashed him, bam, bam, and a bam, bam, rabbit punched him, you know, a few times. And then 3 guys come, and when they did, I just did this right here, and I come hit my door like that, and I come with that ball bat, and I kneecapped them fucking guys. And the store owner, yeah, they were his buddies. They were going to rob me. They were just sitting around hanging out, drinking. Back then, you could sit out with a, you know, with a cold beer. Yeah, you could down there. And they were sitting there and they were watching. And when I took him down, dude, they come right after me. And I did that quick. I went there, boom, got it. And they come, and I had the trunk open right there. And when they come around, I went bam, 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 hit them. I was rocking sock'em robots. I jumped in the car. I did, man. I did. I tried to run over them. And then I got out of there. I was scared to death. And I go down, and I hear a phone on the radio, man. And they're plugging the card in Shreveport, Louisiana. It's a true story. And I was scared. I never really lived on my own other than college. You know, I was a kid, man. I was country, real country, way more than I am now. Anyway, boy, and I remember hearing the card. And I can remember Terry Taylor was working there at Gilbert that night. And I was like, wow, cool. You knew they were great workers. You knew Terry was the boss.
Yeah.
Jake Roberts was working Dick Slater. Jake was getting ready to go to New York, you know, go to events. Dr. Death Steve Williams was working Buzz Sawyer. Buzz Sawyer, remember him?
Yeah.
You knew who Dr. Death was back then. Dr. Death was the baddest man in the world. I don't care what anybody tells you. He was from 1983 or 82 to 1993. There wasn't nobody on this earth could whip Dr. Death. God help anybody.
Yeah, you always hear that.
Hey, man, I've seen him do superhuman stuff. God rest his soul. He's a great guy. But anyway, you're hearing that card, and I was like, wow, I am on this show. You got to be kidding me. Because a lot of them had come off of Georgia, you know, remember the old Georgia Championship Wrestling? Mm-hmm. Buzz, especially. And got there and did, and Terry Taylor looks at me, and he knew I was coming. He knew I was. All he had back then was pictures. You didn't have tapes. You didn't have, was it Betamax? Remember that? VCR, and now it's what, CD, all that other. You didn't have that. You had pictures. You did. You didn't have a cell phone.
Yeah.
You didn't have freaking phone on your camera or cell. You didn't have Twitter. You didn't have Facebook. You didn't have none of that. All you had was word of mouth. And they said, well, Randy said you were green, but you were doable. I mean, Randy Savage.
Right.
Terry was cool. You know, something cool with him. You know, and they said you work hard and you try hard. He said, that's all we know about you. He said, you look all right, you know, like that. And I was just there. I said, you know, and I can remember Jake was so over, y'all. And I know I get off topic when I said Jake Roberts was so over and he was leaving. But the bell, I got there at 6:30. It was an 8 or it was a 7. I got there at 6 o'clock. It was a 7:30 show. The place was packed in Shreveport, and they're chanting DDT at 6 o'clock.
Wow.
At 6 o'clock. And everybody was like bummed out because Jake was going to New York. So he was putting Slater over, putting Taylor over, different guy, mostly Slater. And Slater had the book before Terry Taylor did there, Dick Slater. And, you know, it was pretty impressive. First time I'd seen Dr. Death, and I'd heard the story, and I don't know if you guys know this story about Dr. Death and Rick Steiner, 1985. They were traveling somewhere in Louisiana, a lot of two-lane roads there. A car was on fire, a car wreck. This is no lie. And Dr. Death and Rick pull over. You do so much traveling there. The car was on fire. It's on its side. A man was inside the car. They ripped the door off the car, saved the man's life. Paramedics, cops, everything there, fire trucks, everything. In Louisiana, you got to work the next night. They lived in Alexandria, both of them, you know, and they got the car and went home. Didn't think nothing about it. Well, a few weeks later or months later or whatever, the guy came to the matches. And I want to say Baton Rouge. I'm not sure about that, where it was. And with the news cameras, everything, they made a big story out of that. Wow. Yeah.
How did you end up with Steve Armstrong?
I worked Louisiana. Got to work with Buzz Sawyer. I wanted to finish that, if you don't mind. I know you need time. But Buzz Sawyer taught me, and Dick Slater, two tough guys, man. You know, and I learned so much. Terry Taylor, I learned so much from him. I got to work with Eddie Gilbert a lot before they made him a manager. And Bill Eadie, Dick Murdoch, you know, boy, it was an honor, you know, to work with him. and learned so much from them. Sting and Ultimate Warrior, that was their first full-time job was there. I was there when Dick Slater beat up Sting in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. You want to hear that story?
Who beat up Sting?
Dick Slater.
Dick Slater beat up Sting, yeah.
You never heard that story?
No.
You want to hear it?
Yeah.
All right.
Watch thousands of exclusive shoot interviews right now on TitleMatchNetwork.com.